Welcome to Vision ProFocus, hosted by Chuck Joyner of MacVoices with Marty Gencius and Eric Bolden, having topical conversations about the Apple Vision Pro. This episode is part one about Apple Vision Pro as an entertainment device. You can catch the video version of the podcast at MacVoices.com.
Welcome to MacVoices. No, wait, that's not right. This is Vision ProFocus on MacVoices. This is a joint discussion between Eric Bolden, Marty Gencius of Apple Vision ProFocus podcast, and MacVoices. So this is a joint production, let's say. And of course, that means that Mr. Eric Bolden is here. Eric, great to have you.
Hello. Great to be here.
And of course, Mr. Marty Gencius. Marty, good to see you as always.
It's good to be here, and I like the way that we get to talk about this in a different way than we do on Vision Profiles. We get to talk about it from concepts. So,
well, every show I listen to of yours, you know, I want to take more notes and say, boy, I want to dig into that. I want to dig into this aspect of it, because you all have been sort of hitting the news items, new features, and some of your own explorations. And I wanted the whole purpose of doing this particular series is to dig just a little deeper for those of us who don't have an Apple Vision Pro, even though some of our friends continually are badgering us to get one. I'm not calling any names, but so this time we're going to talk about entertainment and the Vision Pro on the Vision Pro. Got to get this right, on the Vision Pro. And I know you both have been exploring a lot of different aspects of the Vision Pro. I want to start out by suggesting that entertainment, from my perspective on the Vision Pro, and probably in most areas, but really, it kind of falls into two categories. One is passive, one is active. Passive would be watching a movie. Active would be something a little more like playing a game. Mm-hmm. Are those two fair comparisons, or do you feel like there's something else in the middle?
No, I think you've come up with two categories of how people can use Vision Pro for entertainment purposes, and I think more folks are familiar with the passive aspect of it. The active aspect, in terms of playing a game, we're beginning to get some of that, but I think you can watch a movie on anything. And for me, there is just a difference in the experience of passive, if you want to call it that, entertainment on a Vision Pro versus other platforms or other devices that you can watch it on. There's a different internal experience kind of watching it, using that. And Chuck, you Macstock, you put the headset on and we threw a movie on for you, and the words out of your mouth were, "Oh, wow." And so if you can remember, what was the wow for you?
I think the wow was just unlike, no matter how big your screen is at home, and no matter which row in the theater you sit in, the wow was, I'm not in the movie. It's not an immersive thing, but it's just, that's all there is. It's just the movie. And to use your example. And so that was what I think got me, that, we've talked about having the biggest screen in the world inside a Vision Pro. And that's kind of what it felt like. And I can see how, based on that, it would transform the experience of watching pretty much anything. And again, we're talking about things that are not specific. I'm talking about things not specifically produced for the Vision Pro. And maybe you see it as a different dimension for things that are produced for the Vision Pro.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I'll say this and then let Eric chime in. Obviously, there are things that you can watch that are 3D. And my experience of it, whether you're doing it in a theater like you did, with the whole surround black and just you in the movie at whatever size screen you want to have, or most of my passive watching of entertainment is just a window floating in my living room while I sit on the couch. For me, if you do a 3D movie through that, you have that depth. You have that incredible depth of field with it, that objects appear in 3D. But that's really just a niche of the entertainment that's out there and available right now. Even if it's a 2D, it feels like there's some dimensionality because it's placed in the middle of your world, wherever it is, versus sitting on a static platform like a screen or a monitor. It's out there. It's almost, and you can get up and walk around it while it's playing. So it gives a different kind of visceral experience of having this entertainment in your environment as an active piece of what your environment is.
Eric, how do you feel about it? Because as I recall, you were a big fan of 3D movies, and that was one of the things that drove you to purchase an Apple Vision Pro.
For me, it's first, before you even get into things specifically designed for the Apple Vision Pro, you can decide how you want to watch something. It's like if you attend a conference call with an iPad and somebody's showing something and it's just a little bit too tiny and you just, zoom in quick to get extra detail and see it, or pick up your whole iPad and bring it really close to you. So you get that. But you can also say, well, do I have to keep an eye on two dogs playing because I'm sitting outside, letting everybody get exercise, but still attending a conference call or maybe watching the end of a program? And you can do that. You can see both things at the same time. Or you're really trying to focus on a tutorial, and you can dial up a background, a virtual background that's something relaxing and not distracting. And in all of those cases, whether you're looking at the real world with a screen or a virtual background with something playing, you get near perfect lighting. You don't have that problem of, I want to watch the training videos from Apple, from WWDC, and I really can't watch it from 2 to 4 in the afternoon because the sun comes in from the side window across the screen and I can't see anything, so I either have to go downstairs or watch it at a different time of the day. You put on the Apple Vision Pro and then you set what the environment is. Pick a movie theater. You can pick just a dark area. You can put a separate picture behind. You can have, real life behind the screen, but a really large screen or a relatively small screen while you're doing something else and have that in the background. And depending on the day and your mood and the type of thing you're watching, you can match whatever makes it easier for you to watch. And then on top of that, you can add depth and you can add, sound effects that whereas you turn your head, you get to feel the action and the sound in front of you, and then it goes to one side, or you turn your head the other way and it goes to the other side. Again, how much do you want to experience and what do you want the feel to be? And I haven't seen that replicated anywhere else.
Anywhere else, as in non...
Well, like if I have like an iPad or my TV or the computer screen, or, I don't get that flexibility. I might get a little piece of it, but I don't get all of that flexibility.
I wasn't sure if you were referring to other companies' headsets or just the physical world arrangement.
Yeah, mostly comparing to the physical world.
Speaking of the physical world, Marty, I'm really intrigued by the fact that you don't take that full theater mode, or forgive me if I'm using the wrong terms, but that you prefer just to put the headset on and then have a movie or whatever you're watching floating in a separate window, but still see your living room.
I guess I don't need it. I don't need to close off. And the experience for me in the theater mode, in the full theater mode, is not as enjoyable, I think, as other people have it. I'm wondering what's going on around me in the real world when I am in this box. And so I'd much rather have it projected. And although that by the time I get to watch things in the evening, there's not a lot going around me, but still closing myself in a box, it doesn't add to my experience, or I don't need it to have that experience. I can make the screen as large as I want. So everything in my field of vision is the screen. And if I want to look at and see what's going around in the environment, I can turn my head and look, or drop my head and look and see what's outside of the frame. Whereas I can't do that in a theater environment. I think I am much more attentive to the entertainment when I'm using it through the Vision Pro than if I've had it on one of my multiple monitors here in this office. If I was running it on the side monitor, it's immersive in the sense that it's on my head and it's not going away. And if I turn my head, yeah, I can get away from what I'm playing in the video, but it's harder to do that within Vision Pro. So I still get that real sense of being pulled into whatever I'm watching, even though I haven't boxed out anything else that's going on in the environment.
So I don't want to take anything away from the Vision Pro experience, but do you feel like that may be because you're kind of tethered and you're not as free maybe to be distracted, even though you can be just not distracted, but you can take a look at the environment around you if you want to, but just the whole process of putting on the Vision Pro sounds a bit more intentional.
Yeah.
And that adds to the experience and the enjoyment.
Sure. I wouldn't deny that.
Okay.
It's harder for me to get away from it when I'm tethered to it. But
right.
It's, again, I'll go back to something I said early on. It's that screen that's placed in your environment, and I can pick it up and move it if I want to. I can make it bigger. I can make it smaller. That makes it a different experience than if I am watching it on a static size on a static screen, whether it's an iPad, an iPhone, my monitor. That's going to stay there, and it's pretty much going to stay there in that size. And it's going to feel flatter because it stops in your visual field at where the screen is. So I think that's why I think part of the experience that people are saying entertainment is really wow on Vision Pro is because of that immersive sense, but also because it's not how people have ever consumed entertainment in a three-dimensional world. It's not a 3D movie. It's a movie in a 3D world. And that's a different experience.
Interesting differentiation. Interesting. Eric, what kind of content are you primarily consuming? Or is there a particular type of content?
Oddly enough, panoramic images, that's one of the big ones. And that's because if you look at a panoramic image on anything else, you get a big, long rectangle. And, you can print that out and then walk up to a section of it, or, you can scroll back and forth and look at a little piece of it. But it's inconvenient. You put it in the Apple Vision Pro and you look at the big long rectangle and then you click the magic immersive button and then it just wraps that image right around you and it's back to being there at the time you originally took the picture. And you can look at different sections and notice different things that you didn't notice before. Even though it's a static image, it is by far the best way to view a panoramic image that I have seen. Then when it comes to like 3D movies or content, I've always kind of loved the 3D movies, even going back to the two colored glasses for the old movies. But the glasses that you wear in the theater, the glasses that, the two colored ones, it was never quite optimal. I either had to layer it with another set of glasses or you're never sitting in quite the right spot. With the Apple Vision Pro, you are always in the perfectly calibrated spot in the theater to watch the content, or the perfectly calibrated spot in your living room or wherever you are. And so everything is lined up specifically for you. So it is like the best way to see it is if somebody said, sit in that particular seat and everything will be aimed and aligned ideally for you, but it works, for everyone who's wearing the headset. That's something it's just that's definitely the wow part for me, is it just is aligned perfectly.
I think that's an important point, and it's not one that's new. We've heard it before, but think about it in your own home. If you have any kind of decent home setup. One side of the couch, the other side of the couch. It's not everybody wants to sit in that one center seat, whatever it is, because then the stereo is perfect, the picture is perfect, the experience is as good as you can get. And you expand that out to a movie theater, and I'm not ready to say it's worse, but it's more pronounced. And so, there are only a very limited number of seats that I think are the perfect spot to watch a movie for me. And if you don't get there early or reserve those seats, then in theory, you're going to have a suboptimal experience. Now, 2 seats left, 2 seats right, probably not going to make a big difference, but, the Vision Pro would spoil you when it comes to that.
Very much so.
So let's switch over. We're talking about watching movies, or in Eric's case, looking at static images. How about some of the other, I don't know, passive entertainment options? And this is where I start to, when I propose that, it gets a little blurry to me, because I don't know that that there aren't some of the things I've read that are out there. They feel like, while you may not be necessarily playing them or interacting with them, that they are a bit more passive. Museum experiences are the first thing that come to mind, something of that nature. So I don't know, should that be considered a third category? And have either one of you experienced any of that?
Third category, how are you defining that?
Well, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm asking, I guess, is, if you have, if you had a Smithsonian tour of the within the Vision Pro, would you consider that passive or active? Passive in the sense that you're not really doing anything other than just moving around. Active in the sense that you are moving around and getting to look at what you want to look at, instead of what somebody is feeding you on a video screen.
Yeah, it could be very well a third category in terms of it's entertainment, but in some ways it can be sort of choose your own journey, because you open up an app like a museum app. Some of them are just singular content focused, and it's like, this is what you're going to learn here. And others are, what would you like to learn? Well, we've got that over here, and we've got this over here. And you can kind of choose your journey within that. But it is a closed journey. It's not a free and open choice. But it's different than sitting and looking at pictures that other people have created, or even looking at movies that other people have created, because you can't at points in the movie go, okay, I want to go this way. I want to see what the alternative ending is. It's possible. I think it would be really cool if we had that kind of content. But to my knowledge, it's not on Vision Pro yet. And it's not necessarily how people prefer to consume entertainment. They like their story arcs that start and end, and go in one direction and not with multiple choices. The active engaging part of it, I'm not a big gamer, but I'll tell you, 3D puzzles. There are some 3D puzzle and diorama kinds of games that you can play, where you can expand it and shrink it down to get a bigger view of what you're creating. You can spin the thing around so you can get, well, not just around, but in multiple axes you can spin it, and you can pull pieces down and spin those around to try and find the right placement and the right connection. It is a different experience to have that European castle floating in the middle of your living room that you're trying to find the right piece, or you've got this piece and you're trying to figure out where that fits within that object, and you can spin it and shrink it and expand it. You can pull it down and see if the line on the puzzle glows at some point, which tells you this is where the attachment point is for the piece, and let go, and then it attaches. It's interactive, and it's interactive in 3D.
I hadn't even thought about that possibility. Makes perfect sense, but this is where I feel like exactly why we want to talk about some of this. Those of us that don't have Vision Pros, or have not had even if we have them, maybe haven't had the chance to explore like you two have. There's a new presentation of things that the puzzle makes perfect sense, that you'd be able to rotate it, shrink it, resize it, do all kinds of things with it to help you solve it, as opposed to just having it, lay there and do whatever it does in the physical
There's
world.
also an app where you can put your own pictures in, and it will create a puzzle for you, break it apart, and then you can reassemble it. And and it has a 3-dimensional feel to it. It's not a flat screen. Let's just put the pieces together. So there's some cool things with entertainment that way.
Interesting. Eric?
There's also some games, like there's the old Flappy Bird kind of game where you click the mouse and the bird flaps and you get it to go higher and lower, and you watch as it goes across the screen and try and get it through a gap between pipes. But with the Apple Vision Pro, Flappy Experience, I think it's called, you become the bird, so you're viewing from the bird's point of view, and then you flap your arms to go higher or lower as this pipe is coming right at you, and you're flapping your arms trying to get high enough to get through the pipe as opposed to plowing into the side of it. Totally different experience. I found in some ways it was easier to tell what I was doing, but yeah, I almost had a virtual headache when I got done because I kept hitting the pipe every time I turned away, like whack. So is that passive or active? I moved my arms a whole lot more than I normally would, but I wasn't walking around. It was entertaining. Now, as far as video apps, they had the old travel logs. You could watch a show. Hey, visit Europe with so-and-so, and they take you to a city and some sites. There are several different apps out now which basically let you see a city, an area, or a particular site from all different times of the year. So you can basically jump in and get a view of the trail along a river, or the paths leading up to the Eiffel Tower, and see it at all sorts of different times of the year. So if you're trying to plan a vacation, which could cost you quite a bit of money, you can kind of pre-do some city tours, and it's not like Google Maps where you just click and click and click. You're dropped in, and then you get full immersive audio and video, and it all is clearer, and you can kind of look left and right a little bit as you're doing it. And so I found that uniquely interesting, and it was good enough that I actually found myself missing something, and it took a while for me to realize that I couldn't smell anything. And the fact that bothered me is just kind of a hint of how good the visuals were. I was walking along a trail and I could almost feel the humidity underneath the trees in this tropical area, but I couldn't smell it. Or, walking along, the edge of water with a bunch of ice floating, I couldn't smell the dryness of the air. I knew I should be smelling it or feeling the cold, but it didn't match what I was seeing. It was just a little off. Normally the video is not that good. You're watching somebody walking in the Arctic, on a TV screen, you're just watching somebody walking in the Arctic. This is, you are right there. You hear the sounds, you hear everything as if you're right there. It just doesn't quite smell right.
I think I can relate to what you're talking about, because I've done the demo in the Apple Store, and the one lake that they take you to is, it's staggering. It's absolutely beautiful, and you look right, you look left, up, down, and I hadn't even thought about the fact that I couldn't smell it, but yeah, you really can pretty easily trick yourself into thinking that, or feeling like you are right there.
There's another app that's come out recently that allows you, and there's a social aspect to entertainment. I know Eric's very much into photography, and as a result, we're a good match because I'm not that much into photography. So he's the person I turn to for these kinds of experiences. But there's a sort of collective media experience where people can contribute photos of a particular region, and you'll have a globe, and you can stretch the globe and go, I want to go there. I want to see that. I've done some trips to Ireland, and I've done quite a few trips to Istanbul. And so I uploaded some of the panoramic shots that I had, both of Irish ruin castles and also of aspects and parts of Istanbul, and even some video clips that I shot of it. And it's there. People can watch it and can have that experience. And I can also go to other people's experiences and walk around what their environment was. An additional app, which I think is pretty cool, is one where you can upload your photos for a particular area, and they will do this kind of mashup between what's available in Google and in public images and what images you've put there of your experience, and literally walk the path that you took to take the pictures that you took when you were there last time, and stopping at each one of those points to look at the photo. It's a different immersive experience.
That's it for part 1 of Vision Pro Focus using the Apple Vision Pro as an entertainment device. Join us on the Vision Profiles podcast for part 2 and at MacVoices.com with Chuck Joyner for the video version of this conversation.